Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Four Trained Savages podcast, episode number 237. Tyler, today is April 2nd, and the Yankees have opened their season officially out on the West Coast. Tomorrow, they will start their home opener against the Miami Marlins. But this Yankees team is one of the hottest in baseball. Start the season, Tyler, with a 5-1 road trip. Can't complain about that. Let me just say, you can't complain about that there.
And West Coast road trip as well.
It's a big deal. So
Boys haven't been home since February, Rob.
exactly. They were in Florida. Then they took a quick pit stop in Arizona for that about 2 games, and then they had their Netflix opening night, which was also another interesting fold within this
Yep.
road trip. That wasn't really opening day, but it was opening night. Then they had another opening day, an actual opening day on that. I believe it was the Thursday game or the Friday game. And then they go out to Seattle and they take care of business and take two
hmm
series.
Beat some good
And
pitchers too.
really dominant pitching from this Yankees team, I think is the big. I would say is probably the biggest takeaway for me was watching
100%.
Max Fried, watching Cam Schlittler, Will Warren pitching well. We first see Ryan Weathers, nothing to really, uh, nothing ultimately that exceptional, but a good
The
first
stuff
step.
looked like it was there too,
Yes,
which was
exactly.
good.
So a lot of good stuff to talk about. We'll kind of this is our first episode doing a recap for the 2026 season. So we'll be talking about our Savages of the series. I think we'll lump these two together of the Giants as well as the Mariners series and kind of get a gauge there for who we take away as the MVPs of these series and who's in a bit of a slump because it's the beginning of the season. We can't get too high, we can't get too low. We'll talk about maybe some early overreactions because this is just what happens every time that baseball season starts. But
Yep.
my as I said a little earlier, this pitching staff is in a nice spot to open up the season, especially as we know where they're in a depleted point and to begin and to go out on the road on this road trip and look exceptional was very awesome for Yankee fans to see. And then we're seeing players like Ben Rice come out hot out the gates, as well as Giancarlo Stanton come out hot. David
hmm
Bednar has had a really strong start to the season as a Yankee closer, which, if you remember last year at the opening point when we had Devin Williams pitching on the mound, he was about to give us a heart attack. So this has been a great first week and start first two series, and then they stay at home for this Marlins series, which and we talked about before we got on and started recording that the Marlins have been pretty good as well. So,
Yeah.
what other than the pitching, like you mentioned, what was maybe your opening reaction to the way that the Yankee season has started so far?
I mean, the opening reaction is that I'm fulfilled and I'm excited. The pitching is definitely there. I mean, it's more than there. They've straight up dominated, outside of a little bit of weather stuff, in every aspect of the starting pitching. I think the bullpen we're kind of seeing what the formula is, but also, people were throwing a little bit of a hissy fit watching Paul Blackburn pitch in a close game, which is fine. We kind of touched on this last pod that I don't think this is their full bullpen for the year. Um, but I mean, I think Rob, the reality of it is the Yankees are 5-1 on a tougher West Coast trip where they played some, a couple good teams. I don't really know what was up with the Giants to be honest, but faced some good pitching, and they came back 5-1. And Judge hasn't done much, and I think you can confidently say like the entire offense hasn't necessarily clicked. And for me personally, that's okay. Because it's cold. The boys haven't been back since, or haven't been home since, February. And I feel like offense is always a touch behind pitching in terms of getting adjusted to the season. So I'm signing up for a 5-1 start all day, every day, especially when Judge hasn't necessarily hit yet. He's got 3 hits, two homers that, propelled them to, win a couple games. But yeah, Ben Rice
Gotta
looks
be happy.
awesome.
Gotta be
Stanton looks
happy.
awesome. Stanton, you can dream about the stuff with too.
It's been a nice opening set to the 2026 season. So we'll hop through. Let's just dive right into these games, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of good stuff to take away from the Giant series as well as what we saw in Seattle. If this is your first time joining, make sure you subscribe if you're on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Feel free to leave us a rate and review of what you think of the pod, as well as just what you think of the Yankees, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, all of the social platforms. So, first game, opening night, was on Netflix. I was going to give Netflix the benefit of the doubt when it came to the broadcast coverage, but I will say I wasn't overly bothered by the theatrics of the Netflix promotion, but it did get a little irritating
I
after a
think the score
while.
bug is what bothered everyone,
The
right?
score bug was something that pissed people off. I thought Barry Bonds did an okay job. We heard again another story mid broadcast about how he may or how he could have become a Yankee. I think that's a story that he's told before that then drew up
He
social
wants to be
media.
relevant.
Yeah. So I thought their opening desk was fine, but there were definitely points throughout the game where they took away the score bug for a portion of the game. I think that there was a debate whether or not they were going to use the the pitching zone at some points, but I think it was certainly something that drummed up conversation that hopefully they will address. But
Yeah, their first baseball game. I'll give it to them.
I was willing to give other media outlets a bit of a break, as because I don't think ESPN was doing a service to the sport whatsoever when it came to national coverage.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to give them a pass and see if they can improve. But it was something that irritated fans. And then the opening night, just in terms of when it was starting, was something that Boone talked about was a bit different. But they came out, they won the first game 7-0. Max Fried was excellent in this opening start. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 4 Ks, 1 walk. And the Giants just overall in this series were off. I think
Didn't look good.
if you go back to last year, the opening series for the Yankees, we were both at that series against Milwaukee, where Milwaukee had a really bad opening series, and then they ended up being one of
Best
the
team in baseball, yeah.
better teams in baseball, which I could see happening also with the Giants. Sometimes it's the polar opposite, where we can't get too high when the Yankees are playing well, and then the Giants, on the other hand, there's another 159 games to be played, so it's not too big of a deal. But the Yankees offense in this was really good. Actually, most notably that it goes back to the Netflix coverage. They missed Jose Caballero's first ABS challenge. It was shifting from a replay.
First one ever.
First one ever in the history of baseball, which is a big deal because I think they sent his helmet to the Baseball Hall of Fame or something.
Did they really? That's a little corny, I think.
It's a big deal in baseball.
It is
Hall
a
of
big
Fame.
deal.
Baseball Hall of Fame loves corny, but that I think is a big no from Netflix that they missed that they didn't. And there were a few commercial breaks when they were coming back. That's one thing that I have a gripe with for some broadcasts. But Jose Caballero, first challenge, not fully recorded within the broadcast, and then also they sent it to the Hall of Fame, which was pretty funny.
It is funny, honestly. I mean, I don't think I wasn't overly bothered by it, but I can understand the reason that everyone was ticked off by little things here and there.
Yeah. But the rest of the scoring for this one, like I said, Max Fried with an excellent outing. Caballero got the scoring started for the year with an RBI single, as well as McMahon having a pretty nice game, getting in 2 runs with his own single in the top of the second, so they go up 3-0. And then Grisham with a nice triple in the gap in that big field for San Francisco, gets the Yankees up 5-0. Stanton also hitting extremely well, which we'll talk about. But the Yankees ended up winning this one 7-0. Jake Bird pitched in this game, didn't look too bad. Camilo Duvall. So Duvall had a bit of a blow up yesterday and a bit of a bad situation against Seattle, but we'll hope that he is better, and we'll get into that more in detail. But talk about a way to open up the season. You couldn't really ask for a better time. And there were no a shutout, and there were no home runs in this one. So they ended up.
Did they have a home run in the second game?
Yeah, they had Stanton and Judge both hit home runs.
Okay, that was their.
But when you see a crooked number like that, it's a bit surprising with this Yankees lineup to not see home runs and not see them mash the way they did. But Max Fried with a exceptional start, and then you go into game 2 with Cam Schlittler. Like we mentioned, the offense in this one, you're seeing a Judge home run. You're also seeing a Stanton home run. Judge's was a 2-run home run, and Cam Schlittler, on this start, 5 1/3, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 8 strikeouts. And we'll wait to talk a little bit more in detail about Cam Schlittler, but to just kind of give a little bit of a preview, this is just
Not even built up either. This is
this
on like a
guy.
strict pitch count.
Exactly. He is on a bit of a limit and he looks utterly dominant. And it's very exciting. And it
Just throwing
has
a bunch of fastballs, man.
and it has Yankee fans daydreaming for sure.
Hmm.
So
I think fairly. I mean, I'm gonna try and reserve myself a little bit, but like I think, at what point does the daydreaming become reality? I mean, I saw a post today that put him and Skeens, first like 8 starts up against each other, and the numbers are pretty identical.
I
I
saw
mean,
that same
to be
one.
honest,
I saw that same one.
which is pretty cool. And I know you're riding the train on the Schlitz show, but I'm just very excited to continuously watch this dude pitch and see. I'm pumped to see him for 2 months straight, right? Like I feel like that's when the daydreaming stops and it becomes like, yeah, this guy is a top young pitcher in the sport. Maybe not even top young pitcher is fair, just like top pitcher in the
Mhm.
sport.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is to this point.
No, totally. Totally. And then for game three, Judge hits another home run. Also in game two, Bednar closes that one out with a save. And then in game three, Judge hits a solo home run with Rice also getting a 2 RBI double. Will Warren goes 4 1/3, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 3 Ks, turns it over to the bullpen, which went completely scoreless throughout and held the Giants nicely. This was the Giants only scored 1 run throughout the series, thanks to a Matt Chapman single. So
Mhm.
that was attributed to Will Warren's 1 earned run. So the bullpen was good in this series, as well as the starting pitching being very good, and the offense showed up where it needed to. And as we mentioned, where Judge was getting off to a slow start, and there were just a bunch of overreactions about how he's looking, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in detail. But I think these first couple series have been more along the lines of how we've seen Judge get off to a slow April. I think last
Yeah.
year was more of a polar opposite, where Judge
He went
was
crazy in April last
crazy
year,
in
but
April.
traditionally, and it's only been 5 games too, or 6 games.
Hmm.
It's not like it's April 19th and he's like bad.
Slow your roll. Let's slow our roll.
Relax.
Relax,
Relax.
relax. So Yankees sweep the series in this one and then head off to Seattle, which started all these 9:40 starts. As we were talking, thank God that they're back on the East Coast and we can watch
Hmm.
games that don't start at 10 o'clock. Because I was
Game two, I
struggling
didn't
with
make it
my
far.
I'm struggling keeping my eyes open watching the games because they're tough. They're a tough go. But this
Yeah.
first game was the only loss for the Yankees on it. Ryan Weathers with his first start of his Yankee career. I believe that they were panning back and forth to his dad in the stands that we know was a former Yankee on the 98 team, or I think it may have been the 96 team. Went 4 1/3, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. So he started the game a little wild, Tyler, and I felt
Yeah.
like his first batter, he was trying to get into it, and you could tell he was juiced up, dad in the
Those
stands,
first like
everything.
2 innings, it felt like, honestly.
Yeah, so and I think all things considered for the way that he pitched throughout this, it was a good first step. Unfortunate it didn't come in
Yeah.
it came in a loss, but I mean, listen, the Yankees went 5-1. We're not going to complain about that, and he still looked very good. We're not seeing some sort of blow up start, but the Yankees offense throughout this wasn't really doing too much.
Feels like the
I think,
Yankees constantly get worked by Luis Castillo, like
yeah.
forever.
Um,
They're like, you traded for Frankie Montas instead of me. I'm gonna cook you for the next
Yes.
6 years.
Yes. Total of 5 hits throughout this, but you opened it or when we first opened the show, you talked about how Paul Blackburn coming
Mhm.
in that final inning was a bit of a head scratcher for some Yankee fans because he pitched the eighth and then comes back in the ninth and then ended up giving up the walk off to
Yeah.
Cal Raleigh in this one. And I understand it's valid. I don't think it's invalid criticism, but I certainly am thinking this bullpen is not going to be what it is down the road that we've said ad nauseum. But I think you got to pitch these guys at some point. So I wasn't, especially coming off a sweep, which lessens lessens
They didn't
the
want to go
blow.
back to Bednar because they have no problem letting Bednar throw 35 plus pitches.
Which he did on the third
Yeah.
game. So it's listen, and if you pitch him on that night of the first game, maybe it's you don't win the first game, you
Hmm.
don't win the third game. So it's I understood the frustration from Yankee fans, but for me personally, I wasn't I was like, oh yeah, I wouldn't have wanted Paul Blackburn, and I probably would have shifted it over to Bednar in the ninth or one of your better options. But I mean, even in this game, you pitched Cruz already, you pitched Duvall already.
Yeah.
And so
It was one of those moments where
the
they
f-
would rather lose than burn more pitchers and go into extras.
yeah, so
They're like, we're going to live and die by Paul Blackburn right now.
it was the first game of the series, and they dropped it, and the offense didn't show up the way it did throughout the rest of the games, which and then game two, they had Max Fried back on the mound, followed up his first performance with another really solid performance. 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk. In this one, Yankees again hold another offer for Seattle or offer for the Yankees holding another shutout. Ben Rice with a double to get in a run. Stanton had an awesome game, single to right, but it was like the longest bloop ever. That it's one of those funky, pop ups to right where
Hmm.
everyone's trying to communicate and it just drops in. They go up 2-0 in the first. Trent Grisham scored on a
He get
throwing
thrown out
error,
going to second on that play,
I believe so.
Stanton. Yeah,
Or
okay. I'm
no,
just trying to.
Stan. No, you're thinking of you're thinking of a different portion. He did get to second on that, or he
Oh,
that was
okay.
just a single. But you're thinking of a different one in the same game. And then Stanton in the top of the sixth doubles to left to get a 4-0 lead, and then Jazz Chisholm with some extra insurance in the top of the sixth puts him up 5-0. Only ones pitching in this one were Hedrick and as well as Tim Hill. And as I mean, if
Two
Max
guys they
Fried,
like, man.
yeah, so
Like,
Max Fried goes 7 innings. This is that's a good formula. That's a good formula.
yeah. I mean, I'll take the free to Hedrick to Hill all day. I thought this was interesting because
All right, so we're cutting back. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties right there with the Wi-Fi, but we are back. So we were
the
talking about
Wi-Fi.
game number two of the Seattle series with Max Fried on the mound for this one. Also goes another 7 innings pitched, 0 earned runs. So I think Tyler, you were talking about before the Wi-Fi cut out, just like the impact of what this game, the sort of formula from Fried moving into Hedrick and Hill,
Yeah.
that they have the trust with those guys, basically.
Yeah, they're definitely kind of taking a stance or showing us what their bullpen is going to be. Like in games they want to win, it looks like Tim Hill and Hedrick are medium leverage guys for them. So
Hmm.
I don't know. We're just learning about the team, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like we knew Tim Hill was going to be part of stuff, but it was like how much trust are they going to put in Brent Hedrick? And he's looked good. So I don't know. I'm just notating that in my bullpen head virtually.
Yeah, you're taking that into account as you build the trust tree throughout the 2026
Correct.
season. Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Yes.
And then for game three, Cam Schlittler back on the mound. This one happened yesterday. 6 1/3, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 7 Ks. So again, Cam Schlittler is ramping up and starting to look like he's already pitching like an elite level pitcher. But as you said, we
Hmm.
want to see weeks of that, months of that, but the makings are there, and we'll get further into it as we finish up recapping these games. But in this, we have Fernando Cruz comes in for 2/3 of an inning, strikes out one. But as I mentioned more at the top of the show, Camilo Duvall struggles in this one, gave up 2 hits in this, 2 earned runs. That then after Bednar came in, gave up a hit to
Hmm.
Canzone for a single to make it a 5-3 game. Or sorry, Cal Raleigh comes in, makes it a 4-2 game. And then Ben Rice extends the lead to 5-2. But then Bednar actually gave up a run to Canzone in the ninth, but was able to close it out after some base traffic. So David Bednar already 3 saves on the year. That has been something that was a bit of a polar opposite from the start of last season, Tyler, where
Hmm.
we were saying if your closer at the time last year looked bad, but now it's
Yeah.
been Bednar who has been a rock, which has clearly showing
Even though it's
itself
scary
already.
sometimes.
Oh, it's absolutely scary, but that's just the
But that's
business
him,
that
I
he's in.
think.
That's the business
Yeah.
that these players are in. I think the other night I was looking, Edwin Diaz gave up a run. The best in the sport are going to give up runs. It's
Yeah.
just that you are more times than not every night going to be that steady back end of the bullpen that's going to be able to close it out. And even if he did have it look shaky in this one, he closed it out. So the Yankees take the series, and in terms of the scoring, Ben Rice was the standout guy, but also Goldschmidt hitting a home run to make it a 4-0 game in the top of the sixth was nice. So when Goldschmidt has had some opportunities, and he's only played, I think, two separate times, and I know Robbie Ray in that second game against the Giants was that lefty, and they knew that they were going to have multiple off days leading into
Yeah.
just the Netflix night, and then how opening day, the direct day after opening night, they're going to have an off day for the rain out, even though they're in San Francisco, but whatever, and it doesn't rain out there. But just the way that the scheduling was going, they knew that the righties were going to have to get in like Rosario and Goldschmidt, and I think
Hmm.
that's the formula we're going to see too. Tyler, is it may piss us off sometimes, but these guys do have to play at some point to be somewhat fresh. It's just
100%.
the
They
cadence
want
in
to
which
they
they
want
do
to
it.
have platoon options too.
Yeah,
Like they very clearly want to have platoon options. And then which game was it where they sat McMahon against the righty and played Rosario? That was like new.
that was, I believe it was game number, I think game one.
Was it game one? They
Yeah,
had
or no, sorry, I think it was actually because uh, that was game three. That was game three. So it
so it
was
was yesterday.
yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. So and Rosario went 1 for 3. McMahon came in at the end for defense. So that's again what they're probably going to do there. I
But
mean,
courage, but the thing with that's just different than we've been used to is George Kirby's a righty. So like in theory, a straight platoon, that would be McMahon's day to play. They went, no, 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 no. You've sucked so bad offensively. We're
yeah,
actually going to bring in Rosario, sacrifice the defense, and have him bat against the righty. Because like Rosario's in this league right now because he can hit lefties, not righties. So that was like another thing of notation for me,
hmm
virtually, right? Is like, all right, Brent Hedrick, Tim Hill, your middle leverage at this moment in time. And you're so kind of like not going to deal with potentially Ryan McMahon's offense or lack thereof that you're willing to start Rosario against a tough righty and George Kirby. Like, I don't know. That was kind of a talking point for me. And
I
I was
think
like, that is interesting.
I think it was more so because of just McMahon's poor play is my main takeaway. I
Well,
think
that's what I'm
is
saying.
yeah,
Offensively, right?
yeah.
Even though his throws have been a little
Yeah, he's been
erratic
spiking
too.
some throws, which we'll get into. But yeah,
But
I think they want to play those guys.
well, that and is it just like is there really not much of a leash for McMahon? Like I don't know, but that was interesting to me. I think moving forward, if McMahon continues to struggle, you're probably going to see McMahon always play when Max Fried is pitching because I think they know Fried gets 30+% of his outs of being ground balls to third base, so they want a good third baseman there.
Yeah.
And then I think like I don't know. I think you're going to see a straight platoon outside of that, where it's like Rosario is going to play.
hmm
So
As he should, if that's
yeah.
the production you're getting out of third, and
Hmm.
you can't let the defense suffer, man. All right, let's do our savages of the series. We're now back into regular season mode and regular series happening. So for me, I'm going to go with Giancarlo Stanton to begin the season. 10 hits, a 500 average, 1 home run for the year, 4 RBIs, a 1250 OPS. He has been an amazing piece in this lineup. We know that he was in limited time last year. He was just, it was one of the better seasons that you'll see just for the
Stud.
limited amount of games that he played. And now on this season, for the way that he's looked, it you kind of talked about it, it gets you daydreaming a little bit of, man, could Stanton, if he
Like he can
gets
get
up,
MVP votes if he plays enough, dude.
because, and that's the thing, if you, and clearly he needed to play more games last year, but in the
Hmm.
isolated 77 games that he played the previous season, for his numbers, in that time span, those were elite numbers. They were
Like
elite
top
numbers.
8 hitter in baseball numbers.
Yes, like you are with those numbers, you are getting MVP votes. You are. And you're saying, "Oh, if he could stay healthy and extend that down to, an extra 40 games, then that would be the dream." But clearly we know that he has to be managed differently. So now transitioning into this 2026 season, I mean, he's going to be managed differently. We know that he sat the last game of the series that had people a little bit up in arms. But hey, you're going to have to sit him, even if there is a next day off day, or there's times where they could have him in the lineup. And we know the Yankees don't necessarily believe in hot, but that's another story for another podcast.
Yeah.
But if Giancarlo Stanton is hitting like this, the Yankees are in a very good position, and that is going to be. I mean, they don't have enough righties in the lineup, and he's the second best righty in the lineup behind Aaron Judge. And as of
Hmm.
now, with Judge not hitting in April or to start the season with these first couple series, he's their best right-handed hitter. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you got Ben Rice, but Stanton is
Three
playing.
doubles for Ben Rice. I was happy with.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome.
So
Um,
Stan's for me is going to be the savage of the series.
yeah, I mean, I feel like there's two or three clear ones, Stanton being one of them. Got to throw out, give Ben Rice his flowers a little bit. I think he came out of the gate rolling, obviously. I don't know, Rob. I could go with Freed, but I would like to do the sexy pick here and just continue to, graze Cam Schlittler. Um, 11 and 2/3 innings pitched, delayed spring start with the back inflammation or the lat, whatever it was. He's only given up 3 hits, Rob. 15 strikeouts. Does he have a walk? Has not walked or hit a batter. He has a 0.60 FIP and a 0 ERA. 11 and 2/3 innings pitched, no runs, 3 hits, 15 Ks, no walks. It's pretty stupid. Pretty stupid. He's 25, Rob. I'm 27. Blows my mind a little bit. So very cool to see, especially with, the state of the Yankees pitching staff at the moment. They're waiting on Rodon, who had like a weird hamstring report the other day, waiting on Cole. It was pretty important that, a couple guys came out, not just being Max Fried, and like took an established role and was not going to be like a liability in the rotation. And Cam just built off of the exact thing exactly where he left us off last year, which is just being a stud. So I'm going to give it to Cam Schlittler because he's giving you length with under 75 pitches besides yesterday too. What did he throw? I say 77 or 79 or something.
Yeah.
So it's got to be Cam Schlittler. But shout out. Go ahead.
No, no, no. Shout out.
I was gonna say shout out Ben Rice and shout out Max Fried as well.
I think we're in a realistic world, and I know it's overreaction time, and that's what we do to start
He's
the
getting
season.
Young votes.
I really believe that Cam Schlittler, and I texted this to you. I think there's a world where Cam Schlittler, we're having a realistic debate that guy should be the second starter in a playoff series. And yes,
I mean, you could go as far as the first. I mean, if all this continues, I mean, there's really not much to argue there.
I mean, from what we've seen so far, and clearly it's been from last year, I think in June or July when he first came up to the team, and then when you see that playoff start in Boston, and even his playoff start against Toronto, which was very respectable. Clearly, not exactly what we wanted.
Struggled, but like was good though.
Was still good, and I think that from what we've seen on a limited pitch count for Cam Schlittler of him just ramping up and these first two starts being as good as he's been. I think that there's a realistic world where if he continues to stack starts like these, maybe not necessarily as good, but if he's putting together this kind of resume and putting together starts like this, we're having a real conversation that he's not just the fourth or fifth starter, that if you're pitching like this, you're going to be bumped up past Rodon. You're going to be bumped up past Fried. And Fried pitched amazing. I'm not discounting that.
I mean, Fried's been a stud. Yeah.
And he has
in
been
the
a
regular
stud.
season.
And if you want to go off last year, and I know I'm getting way ahead of myself and when it comes to playoffs, and if you're having that conversation, I think it's a realistic debate to be had that Cam Schlittler is a guy that you slot in at the top of the rotation for a playoff
Yeah.
series. He is that, and I haven't even we've just touched on the numbers, but he brings an element of confidence, swagger, and he's delivered on it. He talks shit and he cashes on it. So
That is true.
that is a big element in the way Yankee fans should feel about Cam Schlittler and how he would fit in the rotation. And again, too, we've seen the Yankees more recently have stud pitching prospects come up, and we it could be Luis Severino, more recently Luis Heel, and we've seen Clark Schmidt be good. Will Warren is good,
Mhm.
and I think though watching Cam Schlittler, I think it's a little bit different. I think he's been,
No,
uh,
he's a stud.
I
There's
think
good, and then he's been a
there's a
stud.
level of difference between him and those other guys, and I think that the Yankees traditionally, we know recently they've had these better pitching prospects. But when you think of the better Yankee teams in the last 2 decades, it's been pitchers that they've paid that have come from elsewhere
Hmm.
and haven't been homegrown. You think of
Hmm.
Garrett Cole most recently, or Carlos Rodon, Max Fried. They're all signed free agents. But then if the Yankees can grow and have a starter from their system to be that good, and you even mentioned it, how his numbers are for the first starts of his career are inching on like Paul Skeens' ability.
Hmm.
I mean, that's
It's not
ridiculous.
even, yeah, it's not even the tiniest sample size. I mean, in his career, Rob, which obviously dates back to last summer or whatever.
I
I
was at
mean,
his first start. It was a great start.
were you really?
Yeah, I went with
Damn, I
some
did
work
not.
people.
That's pretty cool, honestly. Um, I mean, he's thrown 84 innings. I mean, 84 innings, and he has a 2.55 ERA. 99 strikeouts in 84 innings. I mean, 162 ERA plus. I mean, you're talking about a 200 strikeout, guy for the year.
Hmm.
This is why, like, I'm just so pumped to like see what Schlittler does for the year. Like Schlittler probably could have thrown a complete game yesterday if it
Hmm.
wasn't on a pitch count.
Yep.
Um, it's very exciting, Rob. I mean, I think us and all Yankee fans are totally um, just all in on
Hmm.
Cam Schlittler.
100%. 100%. Now let's transition over to our Savage Slump Watch. And you don't want to pile on too much in a 5-1 start to the season, but there are some players that we got to talk about that haven't
Hmm.
been good to start the year, but clearly it's very early.
Mistake.
I'm going to go with Ryan McMahon for mine. I think Ryan McMahon is a bit of a wild card in my opinion. I wasn't
Yeah,
overly
that's
sold
fair.
on I when I talked to you over last year, I wasn't that sold on him. I know the defense was good, but now as we've seen him spiking throws a bit, that's going to allow the noise to get louder and it's going to get a little more challenging for him. And we've already seen it this early that where Ahmed Rosario is meant to hit against lefties, that he's coming in against righties, and that's because Ryan McMahon hasn't been playing well. So
Yeah.
in 15 at bats, he's batting 067, a 176 on base percentage, and a 243 OPS. Now, this is only 15 at bats in. He's only played, I think it was three or four, or three or four, 5 games.
Yeah.
So this
17
is
plate
I
appearances.
as early on as it may be, and you can disagree with me. I think that hit essentially, I don't think his spot is cemented for himself. I
I
think
think that's
that
fair. We
I
talked about maybe them trading him this offseason too.
I exactly. We as
Or
recently as
this
this
past
offseason,
offseason.
yeah, as recently as this past offseason, we were talking about could they move McMahon? And I don't. I think if the offense was always a was a wild card. He's is a 736 OPS career guy, but we expected the defense to always be there. But these first
Mhm.
few games, the defense has frustrated Yankee fans, spiking some throws in front of first base, not being necessarily what we thought was the Gold Glove level player that we were getting. So if you're telling me that if he's not hitting and then the defense is also not what we were signing up for, Yankee
Mhm.
fans are probably going to be pretty frustrated about it. And it's not all that surprising. It's kind of the same story that we had previously in a different way, but with Anthony Volpe, where, okay, we were saying the offense isn't there, but then once the defense starts to go, you say, I'm not really
Now
getting
you're worth
behind.
nothing.
Now you're not doing much for us. So it's essentially the same dynamic with Ryan McMahon, different position, a little older, not a
Yeah, how
prospect.
long of a leash he gets. Yeah.
So you don't, and he's not going to have the same leash as Anthony Volpe because we know that the love there is much greater with the Yankees, and they're going to trot him out. But I think that the Band-Aid would be easier to rip off, and if he doesn't continue to play or doesn't start playing well, and I know it's April, and there's going to be a lot more time for him to correct it, and I could be coming back on this podcast next week and he's better. But I think that's one candidate for me that I'm saying, ooh, he may not stick around as long as we maybe thought he would. So as if he's playing like this. So that's my 2 cents.
I can't totally disagree with anything. I don't think his spot's necessarily guaranteed. If the defense wavers, that's terrible. And then, yeah, offensively, if he kind of, keeps on track with what he's been as a Yankee, not going to be great. But I'm not going to stress about the defense yet. I'll give him that. But,
that's fair.
It just can't continue, which is easier said than done. But I guess I'm going to go with the 50-50 guy. Judge hit a couple homers, so I can't, there's been people worse than him.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to give it to Jazz. What are the exact ABs to hits? 23 ABs, 4 hits, 174 batting average, 208 on base, 174 slug, 382 OPS, 15 OPS plus. Just hasn't been there yet, Rob. Not really. I'm not overly concerned about it again either, but I kind of have to, pick a dude here who was not a dude this series. So I'm going to give it to Jazz. Second on the team in Ks behind Aaron Judge too. So he's been striking out. 2 stolen bases, caught stealing once. So I guess in the small sample that is 50%. But yeah, I'm going to give it to Jazz Chisholm.
Yeah, we got.
If I'm not going to pick on a pitcher.
If that 50-50 season is inbound, I think we're going to need to start seeing that soon. But I think, I think Jazz at the end of the day will get things into gear and be more about what we've seen last year. And I think in a contract year, he's going to be motivated. But we didn't. You mentioned when we were talking about our Savages of the series that I think we should talk a little bit more in detail just about how good Ben Rice has been to start the year. And Ben Rice. So far, he is batting .412, has a .524 on base percentage with a 1.289 OPS, has a home run, 5 RBIs. So Ben Rice is one of these players or one of these younger Yankees that Yankee fans collectively are saying to themselves, this is now, we saw last year with more playing time, more of a sizable sample size that you are going to be a big contributor to this team. But now it's like, okay, next step for Ben Rice. And the way, and if you look at people rave about his Baseball Savant page and the hard hits and what his expected, what some of his expected outcomes should be. Sometimes he gets screwed over, and people on Twitter will ultimately say, man, he's one of the most effed over players when it comes to expected batting average, expected everything. So he is making a big step, I think, this season. I wouldn't be surprised if even last year we saw him have a on the cusp all-star level season, and I think we can see that again.
He slugged 500 last year, Yeah.
And two, I said this last podcast, I want him to be good, and I also want Austin Wells to be good because my preferred thing is that Ben Rice is playing more at first base, so that offense can stay the priority, and he's not thinking so much about preparing the pitching staff here and there. If he has to catch some games, that's fine, but I don't necessarily want the burden to be on him because we're expecting him to be such a important piece of the lineup. And so far to kick off the year, I mean, we're seeing Ben Rice be that dude, so it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm as a lot of Yankee fans are. I'm all in on Ben Rice, to be honest. The Yankees are too. I mean, he is like the guy they went into this season with, like, to kind of protect Aaron Judge, honestly, which is kind of nuts because he hasn't done it a whole lot, right? He did it most of last year, but it just shows you how many eggs they're putting in the Ben Rice basket. But yeah, Rob, 7 hits in 5 games, 21 plate appearances, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. He has the least amount of strikeouts Out of all the starters for the Yankees in terms of position players, like I said earlier, three doubles, had the homer too. Um, I have the same amount of energy, um, in terms of how excited I am to watch Ben Rice for another full year that I do with Cam Schlittler. Like I think they are both like absolute studs that are budding right now,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Um, and then also we didn't talk too much about Caballero, but there were some double plays I think at San Francisco that showed you. I think the final game on Saturday there were like three or four
Yeah.
turn double
Looked
plays
cool.
that we're getting out of, and Caballero and Jazz look to be developing a pretty good dynamic when it comes to that middle infield. So far in the year, Caballero's not exactly jumping off the page. 190 average, 418 OPS. So if he's in a category, I guess you could say, for a little bit of a savage slump watch, but
Yeah.
we'll
No,
expect.
he was there with Jess.
And you got to take this, yeah, all with a grain of salt because I think it's two series, man. You can't overreact too much, but I know
6 games.
we're in the business of doing like any media stuff that it's going to be an overreaction
Got to
level
talk about the
of
games. You got to chew on something.
it's the same thing. Yeah, you got to chew on the games. It's going to be the same thing of how we're talking about Cam Schlittler and then how we're talking about Caballero or Jazz
Hmm.
or Judge. So I think our benchmark that we've had time after time with this podcast has been usually let's make
May.
it let's make a true evaluation in May and then we can
Hmm.
have that stuff. So like I was saying
I'm glad we
earlier
do have
about.
that little benchmark, honestly.
Yes, I think we should put a date on it. We should just say be like May 15th or something. Just be like, this is when we're like, all
I
right,
just
buddy,
need the
get your shit in
calendar to
gear.
turn
Yes.
virtually. And I'm like, yo, if you've been bad for 5 weeks and there was already like if to be honest, if Judge is like not Judge and it's May 1st, I'm still probably not gonna care too
Yeah.
much, honestly. Um Now if McMahon is bad on May 1st still, then I'm like, all right, we got issues. Ahmed Rosario, you're the starting third baseman, type of to
I also think I didn't even mention
same
this
with
with
like Trent, question marks.
I didn't even mention this when it came to McMahon. I think I texted it to you that I think they're going to at some point want Waldo to fold in. And if you have
Hmm.
Ahmed Rosario and say in the spots that he hits, that could be a guy that pressures the playing time. And then
Yeah.
Waldo, we know, has played third base. And if he ever ends up coming up and he's a switch hitter, and is that someone that can challenge McMahon if he is not good? And
Yeah.
we'll just see, because I'm going to give McMahon some grace because he did hit well in the playoffs. He played some stellar defense in those series. So I'm going to give him a chance, but I know it's definitely something that's keeping on my radar a little bit. And we'll just see. We'll just see how it ends up turning out. And but I'm excited to see the way that Stanton's hitting. I mean, even with Judge not being overall like other than the home runs being totally
Mhm.
there, I think that this team is in an excellent position, and they play the Miami Marlins this weekend, or the bounce back Marlins. So we'll
Yeah,
see
the
how it
bounce
goes,
back
man.
Marlins.
We'll see how
I'm
it goes.
excited to see what they do with Waldo too, to be honest, because like there isn't like a clear path for him necessarily.
Mhm.
Like they're not getting rid of Goldie,
A
they're
lot
not
of
getting rid of Rosario.
variables.
They're
A lot
not
of
getting rid of Rosario. They can send down. I think they can send down Escara, right? Like he probably has options. I don't know. Um, Really, your option is like get rid of Randall Grichuk, and I think you can't send Randall Grichuk down. So if you get rid of him, he's off the team.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know what the play is for Waldo, right? Maybe this is something where, a long season plays itself out and people, spend time off on the injury list or whatever, but knock on wood, it's not going to happen because I like a healthy team. But we got some stuff to look at, Rob. We got some, we've kind of laid the framework for moving forward.
Yes, absolutely. So I hell of a way to start off the season for the Yankees on a tough road trip. It's not easy to go out to the West Coast and win games, but
Not at all.
they did that, and they honestly could have potentially swept the road trip. But hey, we'll take 5-1 any day of the week.
Mhm.
Credit to anyone going to the opening day games tomorrow, or opening day officially at Yankee Stadium tomorrow. I know I'm already trying to pencil in when I will be going out to the stadium, so I'll be looking at some games in April. Tyler, me and you will have to
Oh, are
attend.
you done? Are you not on the fourth because UConn?
I'm not. I'm going. I'm watching this. I'm watching
Nice.
this. They shout out to my Huskies, proud alum. If they, I was gonna go on
One of the
Saturday.
craziest games I've watched, Rob.
Unbelievable. It was a crazy game, and I was saying to Tyler we were probably going to go to the game on Saturday, but then they won, that's just the way the schedule shaked out. And I'm like, nah, I can't go
Yep.
to this game. And,
Yeah.
Yankees take care of business against against the Marlins. I got to
Yep.
watch my Huskies. So
You just be watching the
I
UConn
just
on
be
your
on my
phone.
phone. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll sit on the couch for this one. I'll pop the Yankees on and do a double
Exactly.
TV or something. But yeah, Yankees go out to play, or the Marlins come in to play the Yankees, and we're gonna see some fun festivities for opening day at the stadium. It's always fun. So really appreciate everyone for joining us. We'll be sure to be back on next week to talk about some of the recap series from this upcoming weekend. If you're new to the pod, make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, as well as Twitter. And then, leave us a comment what you thought of the pod, what you think of this Yankees team, and we will catch you at 2:38. Peace.